Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this channel once again. Today we are going to study the poem The Cold Within, written by James Patrick Kinney. Now before we begin this poem, please subscribe my channel and hit the like button if you find my videos useful. So now let's begin. The Cold Within is a narrative poem written by an American poet named James Patrick Kinney in the 1960s. It is a very simple yet tragic poem about six people trapped by chance in the biting cold weather, and each has a stick of wood. The fire which is keeping them warm is about to die, but none is ready to put his or her log to use. This poem gives us a powerful universal message. It talks about the outcomes of letting one's prejudices control his or her decisions. It is a parable, which means it teaches us a lesson. It inspires us to rise above all sorts of discrimination based on class, caste, color, creed, and religion, and promote the concept of universal brotherhood. It teaches us that if we behave selfishly and do not share all that we have with others, then at the end we are all going to suffer. It also makes us think over the concept of sin and makes us realize that anger, enemy, prejudice, miserliness, and a materialistic attitude are not merely vices but sins that will destroy us if we do not check them. This poem is set in the western part of Cincinnati, Ohio, where the blacks were hated the most during the 1960s. Now let us read the poem and understand in details. Six humans trapped by happenstance in bleak and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story is told. The poem begins on a dramatic note. The poet takes us directly into the middle of the action by telling us that six humans were trapped by happenstance, which means that it may seem they were trapped accidentally, but it was pre planned by God. So these six human beings were trapped in a place which was gloomy and bitterly cold, and each one of them had a stick of wood that belonged to them. Here, the poet uses the word humans and not people or person or men, because by using the word human, the poet wishes to convey that as living beings, we are all equal in the eyes of the Creator, that is God. We human may discriminate among each other, but the Creator does not do so. Their dying fire in need of logs, the first woman held her back, for on the faces round the fire she noticed one was black. But the first human, who was a woman, refused to give her log to fuel the fire because she saw that there was a black man among them. She found it difficult to overcome the scene of racial discrimination. She could not bear to see the black man benefit because of her contribution. She would have given the logs for the benefit of the others, but not for this black man. The next man, looking across the way, saw one not of his church and couldn't bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. Now, birch means the wood of the birch tree. Now, it was the turn for the next man, who looked at the people sitting around the fire and saw that there was a person who did not belong to his religion. He could not tolerate this fact and was not able to overcome his narrow mindedness and religious intolerance in order to contribute his log of the birchwood to the fire. The third one sat in tattered clothes. He gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use to warm the idle rich? So now the third man sitting around the fire was wearing tattered clothes. Tattered means torn and worn out, which proves that this man was a poor man. Now he saw that one of those people sitting around the fire was a rich man. So he tightened his coat and pulled it closer and thought that why should I contribute my log to the fire which will give warmth to this rich man who is lazy and never works hard but only exploits the poor. He was filled with hatredness and bitterness and could not overcome his feelings. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from sight, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. So bespoke means showed signs of. So the fire was almost about to die at this point. The black man saw this, but it was clearly visible on his face that in his situation, the only thing he wanted was a revenge for the ill treatment he had suffered at the hands of the white people. The stick in his hand had the potential to revive the fire and save everyone's lives, but he failed to see this potential. He was so blinded by hatred and his trust for revenge that he only thought of using his stick to hurt the white man. The last man of this fallen group did not accept for gain, not means nothing. Giving only to those who gave was how he played the game. So now it was the turn of the last man in this fallen group. Fallen means sad or dejected. Even this man never did anything without thinking that his actions would bring him some profit or benefit. He was extremely materialistic and he would play the game of life and give only to someone who would give him something in return. He was neither kind nor generous. He saw that the others were not giving away their logs, so even he did not give away his log of wood in order to save the dying fire. Their logs held tight in death's still hand was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without, they died from the cold within. So finally the fire died out and all the 6 human beings were frozen to death. Although they laid there still and dead, they kept on holding their logs in their hand tightly, which was the proof of human sins. Their prejudice, bitterness, hatred, negativity, and selfishness were their sins. They had a chance to give up their sins in the fire of enlightenment and save each other's life, but they did not do so. They did not die because of the cold outside, but they died because of the lack of warmth in their cold heart. The logs of woods represent our sins, and the dying fire is a metaphor used for the fire of enlightenment in us. So, by holding on to their sins, they not only died physically but also spiritually.